everyone, welcome back to Arts and Crafts and CPTSD, where I work on a craft and tell you about my experience with complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I almost forgot what CPTSD stood for. I was thinking today that we could talk about something that I did in therapy this week, and I've also been kind of struggling with in the days after therapy, just because it's such, a heavy and sensitive subject. So I do weekly therapy, and the person I see is specialized in EMDR. But we started out just doing traditional talk therapy. Well, I don't know if it's traditional, but I didn't do EMDR with her for a while. And it's only recently in the last year when I fully recovered this memory that I started actually doing EMDR with her. And if you're not familiar, basically, for what I do, I look right and left. You get the bilateral stimulation of the right side and the left side. She actually, I present the issue that I want to work on. So one time we worked on how I feel like other people's, mostly my mom's, emotions are my responsibility. And so she asks me to find either the first memory I have of that happening, or just the one that is that stands out the most, or the most extreme version of that. And so I find that memory, and that's the memory that we kind of sit with as I do the bilateral stimulation. And each time we do it, she has me tell her what came up for me. So that's how we usually have done it. But I guess she went to a conference and learned a different way of doing it, where the patient is just doing a bunch of things while still keeping that memory in their mind, and they're trying to basically flood the short-term memory, is what she said. And so the example that they had tested on was a woman was dancing a certain kind of dance and listing the ingredients of her favorite food, something like that, while doing this. And it's all really hard, but she thought I could do it with my crafts. And so I brought in my crafts and I did that while she had me hold in my mind an image of one of these abuse instances, and also had me say the alphabet, count to 100, say some rhymes. And so I think it was really helpful. I do think that I still processed things similarly to when we do the more traditional EMDR that I'm used to, but in that sense too, it also triggered a really hard recovery from that, because to me the work, quote unquote, work in the therapy session during EMDR doesn't sound hard. What sounds hard to me in therapy is when you're literally talking about and describing the details of the incidents. So when you're not doing that, I usually think of it as being easier. But the recovery for this kind of EMDR therapy has been so much harder than any other therapy I've done, where I just physically and emotionally feel knocked out for days. And really the first time I did it, before I knew I had repressed memories, I was knocked out for 2 weeks. The recovery after Monday's session has been kind of hard over here. And I just keep thinking back to the memory in the scene that we worked on. And I just had a lot of unresolved feelings towards it. So I wanted to talk about kind of just what that experience has been like. So what we worked through was one of the instances of my childhood abuse. It was when I was about 6 years old, and it was in my bedroom at the time. at the apartment we were staying in, there was an instance with my cousin, but what stood out to me is that the image I have in my head of that instance and like how I felt about it, like the pain it caused me, isn't an image of the abuse actually happening. It's an image of me in my room alone after the abuse happens. And I think that is the most impactful part of it. The fact that after this really, really confusing bad thing happened to me, I was then just alone to try to make sense of it, soothe myself, do all of those things that really a child, a 6-year-old, doesn't know how to do and needs help doing. I truly can't remember at any point after that some adult in my life noticing me, noticing that anything was wrong with me and asking about it. These past few days, those feelings of just the emptiness I felt afterwards, the knot in my stomach, like the tension that to me has indicated that something's wrong, has just remained. And I just remember feeling so confused afterwards. I didn't know what happened. And I knew that I felt bad. And so I think in my mind, I was like, well, then did I do a bad thing? And it's hard because I can't answer that question for myself, but there was no one there to answer that question for me. And so today, a few days after doing the therapy session, I was journaling about my lingering feelings and just kind of reflecting on the image of 6-year-old me in the room, and I guess like what I would have wanted to happen. And what I would have wanted to happen is my mom or another more trusted adult walks by my room and looks in and sees me sitting there, notices what's going on with me, and talks to me about it. And so what I did was a practice in like visualization of doing that for myself. So I envisioned the version of me I am now, so like 31-year-old me, noticing myself. I walk into the room and I sit down on the floor with the 6-year-old version of me. I hold her, I ask her what's wrong, I ask her if she wants to talk about it. She's hesitant at first, but I just try to reassure her that it's okay. I'm here for her. She doesn't need to talk about it, but I'm still here for her. And I'm just kind of like stroking her hair. And she tells me that she was upset because of a game her cousin had her play. And I'm still, trying to be gentle and neutral and not scare her. I say, I'm sorry. Did you not like the game because you didn't find it fun? Or did you not feel safe in your body with the game? And she said she didn't feel safe in her body. And I said, I'm sorry. You should feel safe in your body. You shouldn't be made to play a game that makes you feel unsafe. And so I ask her for more details on the game, and she tells me. And again, I just try to remain as neutral as I can so I don't freak her out more than is necessary. I tell her that her cousin shouldn't have done that. Her cousin did a bad thing, and that it's over now and I'm here now and I can help that not happen again. Like, I can make sure she and her cousin aren't left alone together again. And she seems like kind of hesitant, like she doesn't want to make it a big deal. She doesn't want someone to get in trouble because of her. She doesn't want to ruin anything in the family. And I reassure her that like I don't have to make a big deal out of it if you don't want to. I can just kind of, secretly be your bodyguard, like a little secret service situation where I just keep watch over you, try to turn it into like a playful thing to get her on board. And she seems happy with that. And then I get us up from the ground and I have her change out of her school uniform. I tell her we need to get into something more comfortable. We're gonna change into some princess pajamas, and I let her pick out what I change into as well. And I tell her that for the rest of the day we're gonna have a princess day, which is a day where she just makes the decisions. She decides what we're going to eat. I suggest my signature sad girl meal, which is an In-N-Out animal style fries and a Neapolitan shake, and she gets to decide what we do, what games we play, or crafts we can make, or if she wants to watch something on TV. And I just spend the rest of the day with her and holding her, and I tell her that I will always be there for her and it's just her and me. And that was really nice. It felt really, really nice to have that, even just as like an imaginary exercise. It did feel really healing to provide that for myself, because really you can't control what happens to you, what other people may do to you, or how they may treat you, but it's really more so important the repair you do afterwards, you know, how people are there for you afterwards. And I wanted to make the main focus of her memory of that day and that incident. I wanted the main focus to be on the positive things that happened afterwards. I wanted her to reclaim some control in her life by, you know, making the decisions for the rest of the day. And I think it was really impactful for me to just shift the focus from, oh, this really bad thing happened to me when I was 6 years old and it's still affecting me now at 31. Like, how am I expected to heal at all if I can't change the fact that that happened to me? I think it really shifted my perspective into, we don't have to change what happened to me. We can change how we're dealing with it afterwards. And it also reminded me of an instance with my late aunt, who was like that kind of trusted adult in my life before she passed away, where it was a silly like misunderstanding with friends, where my neighbor was having a birthday party and I went inside to grab something and I came back out and I couldn't find them anymore. I thought that they had just left somewhere without me. And so I went back inside and I was very sad and dejected in the living room. And my aunt came home. She was living with us at the time. She came home and she noticed that I looked sad, and she asked me if I wanted to talk about it, but I didn't. And after that, she was like, well, do you want to watch this tape with me? And so she just hung out with me and cheered me up. And now when I look back on that memory, the overwhelming sense that I get is not the sadness and rejection and loneliness that I felt from my friends leaving me. It was the closeness I felt to my aunt, the care that I felt from her, the fact that she noticed something was wrong, cared that I was feeling bad, and did something to help me, that I remember. And it does make me sad that I didn't have that in the other instances, that I didn't have that when I was facing the abuse that I faced, because really there were multiple instances of abuse, and I just don't understand or see how parents or adults can't notice that the abuse is happening and can't notice afterwards the impact that it's having on their child. It makes me really, really sad that I did not have that. And it does make me also like wonder how different my life would be if I had had that. If all of the traumatic things in my life still happened, but I had someone with me who could reassure me and help me through it, how different my life would be. And different in a good way, I think. I think I wouldn't have dissociated as much from my body and myself. I think I have been depressed my entire life, and if I had the support, I don't think I would have faced that. I do think also that it can be a trap to fall into, thinking about how things would be different or better in some way if just like this one thing had happened. And it's something I'm working on, that I'm just accepting that things happened this way and had to have happened this way to get me here today, as I just talked about in my last video. But that's a hard thing to accept, and it's a hard thing to remember all the time, especially when you look back and you just feel so sad, because you know that things could have been better for the younger version of you, and they just weren't. I didn't mean for this to end sad. I meant for it to be an example. I think the main thing I want to take away from this story and this exercise is how we can help ourselves now, how we can provide ourselves with the support and the adult that we needed back then by, you know, engaging with our inner child, engaging with these parts of ourselves who haven't healed. And I personally think that this healing was a long time coming, and I'm very happy with the progress I made in recognizing the need that 6-year-old me had, and also fulfilling that need by myself. I think my therapist will be proud of me too. I hope so. And I hope that this can help give people ideas on how they could maybe incorporate something similar into their life. If there's something that keeps coming up for you where you wish something had been different, someone had done something else in that situation to help the younger version of you. If you envision it and play out that scenario where you provide yourself with what you needed, it can be very healing, it can be very empowering, and just very helpful. And so thanks for listening and watching once again, and I hope you are all doing well.